Welcome to another episode of CricChat powered by Umer Sheikh. Paul, welcome to the show once again.
Thanks for having me back.
Yes. So, first of all, before I dive into the questions, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I mean, it's been an interesting couple days, just trying to reflect and um, regain that passion for the game. I guess Sunday evening, I got home and started questioning my future in umpiring a little bit, but that's since gone away. I've watched a couple of games on TV, and I'm actually doing a game tonight. So yeah, doing okay.
You're doing okay. Yeah, that's very important. Can you walk us through what happened during this controversial call or during this game of CCA and Knight Riders?
Yeah, I mean, I know we'll probably go into a little bit more detail later, but eh, as a lot of people out there know, I was the umpire that gave the controversial no ball call for what was deemed by myself and the other umpire as an illegal bowling action. Um, I believe that it was the right call, it was a fair call, and it was handled in the way that it should have been. Um, and certain factors escalated it a lot.
Yeah.
And to have a team walk off was obviously not the result that everyone, myself included, wanted. And it was very disappointing to see. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it was unfortunate, but it was the rules of the game, and that's where we're at today.
So when I spoke to you yesterday over the phone, you said leg umpire confirmed that it was a chucking call. The bowler was chucking. Can we talk a bit more between what happened before you actually called the
Sure.
no ball?
Yeah. So, the way this all started was, I believe it was the bowler's second over of his spell. I think it was the second delivery. Um, I noticed kind of at the corner of my eye what I perceived to be an extension of the elbow during the delivery. Um, I wasn't 100% sure at that point. Obviously, from my vantage point, I'm focusing on the feet to make sure they're where they need to be, and then once the feet are solidified, I move my attention towards the batsman. And I just kind of noticed out of the corner of my eye that maybe there was something there. So I made a motion over to the square leg umpire. It was something like, watch the elbow, and pointed at my elbow. He acknowledged the signal. And the next delivery, I shifted my focus away more towards the arm and perceived what was a clear illegal action with the extension of the elbow past the shoulder. After that ball was dead, I approached my square leg umpire and asked, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like, what do you think? And he says, yeah, that's a definite throw. So from there, we called the captain over to explain the procedure behind that we feel we have enough visual evidence that this bowler is throwing, and we're going to issue a warning, and the previous delivery is going to be a no ball. And then the captain wasn't very happy, which is understandable, and that's fine. And it just kind of escalated more and more from there. Like I was told that I wasn't allowed to call a no ball. And I believe I stayed very calm at this because, usually if someone tells me, especially a captain tells me that I can't do something, being the official in charge, especially from where I'm standing, that's cause for concern that a captain's acting that way. And it really kind of went downhill from there. But yeah, that's what we saw, and that's how we called it.
So someone reached out to me and said, so this is when all of this happened, a couple of hours after, and just before I made my video. Someone told me there was shouting from the outside, and you called a no ball right after that.
Yeah, I mean, there was shouting. It was more obvious during the third delivery, the one where we actually decided we were going to call it. Um, and I can see the perception that, okay, we've heard something from the opposition team, and that's how we've acted upon it. That wasn't the case at all. Like we had noticed it the previous delivery, um, and I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm only human. Um, I try my very hardest not to let outside factors come into this. I mean, if you watch the smash and grab final, you'll know that in the 19th over, I had probably at least 100 people screaming at me in the boundary to call a no ball in the 19th over that may have affected the result. And again, at that time, I didn't perceive that as a no ball for a waist height. So I try not to let outside factors determine that. Whether subconsciously it did or not, that's neither here nor there at this point. I'm not saying it didn't, but certainly we had noticed the action in the previous delivery, and that's we'd communicated both the umpires that maybe there was something more to watch, watched it further, and then took the action.
So my question, as I was looking at the scorecard, why wasn't it called in the first over?
Yeah, we call it as we see it. I mean,
Sure.
There might have been an incident in the first over where it was, but there's two of us out there, and we've got dozens of things that we're looking for at all times.
Right.
When I'm standing behind the wickets for and a bowler's running in, I've got to watch his feet. I'm looking around at fielding position, make sure there's players inside the circle, outside the circle, that kind of thing. I'm looking for keeper movements. So there's so much we're looking for. So it's very possible that it happened in the first over, and we didn't see it, or one of us didn't see it. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly no reason in the first over that I had noticed or my colleague had noticed to have a conversation or to indeed call the no ball.
So you think it was a coincidence that people were screaming from outside and you had noticed around the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, the shouting came after the third delivery, and that's when myself and the other umpire had initiated the conversation to confirm what we had seen.
So if I may track back a little bit, so at that point you had already spoken to the leg umpire and the captain?
No. So after the second delivery, when I first noticed the action from the corner of my eye, I had made a motion to my umpire. I said, watch the elbow.
Okay.
Right. And he nodded at me that he'd understood what I was saying. So I believe his attention is now more on it.
Sure.
And as I said, like my attention is now more.
And that's his call as well.
Yeah. So that, I mean, in the laws of the game, it's primarily the square leg umpire who can call it, but there's nothing in it that says the main umpire can't call it as well. So, yeah, that's how it went down.
So there seems to be some confusion whether umpires can call it or you just have to report it to the league. So I just want to ask you, what made you that this is the right call to make right now?
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of the confusion, especially from the fielding side captain, and certainly in our first conversation, was that in CDCL there was a rule passed that umpires are not allowed to call no balls for throwing.
Okay.
The procedure there is to just report it and let the league take action.
Okay.
I've done CDCL games before, not a lot. I'm certainly not a 10-year veteran or anything, but I kind of pride myself in the beginning of the season making sure I go through those operating rules one by one. Even in July, like they changed the T20 laws. There was a few tweaks to it. And the first thing I did was print off a new copy and make sure I study those changes.
Okay.
And I had never heard of this rule before. I mean, I can understand where it might have come from. And I even said to the captain that, okay, if that's the rule, like I'm unaware of it. And if that's the case, like obviously, I can't call the no ball. And that's kind of where, phone calls started happening and the game got really delayed.
Okay.
And I guess, having talked to members of the league, I guess this was a discussion that happened about 7-8 years ago, that some members were complaining that umpires were calling no balls and they shouldn't have been, and there was a law change in regards to the angle of the flex, and that's where this rule, I guess, was maybe proposed or kind of set in motion, but never really applied. So once I got confirmation from the league that there's no such written rule that an umpire cannot call a no ball, we have to follow the ICC play conditions. That message was relayed to the captain, and his stance was basically, if you call a no ball, like, we're walking off the field. And to me, like, that's setting a precedent for the rest of the game and the rest of the season.
Sure.
Everyone on the field, the batsman, the fielders, the bowler, they know what I'm about to do, right? So if I go back to my stance and let it happen, like, that's even worse, right? Because
you made the call already.
Well, I haven't, like, officially made the call. I haven't signaled the scores, but everyone knows what's going on, right? Okay. So now if I go back, I've got to go to the batting side captain and say, okay, I wanted to call a no ball, but now I'm not going to. What happens in the second inning, right? Then that just becomes that confrontation of, like, well, umpires can change calls, and we can in certain instances, but for something like this, when both umpires agreed it was cut and dry, like, it's so much worse if I change the call at that point.
No, I was earlier looking for one of the comments that was made by Shabazz. And I'm just going to read that out to you. This was made on our Facebook page. And he said, "This is some real BS. The issue of chucking has come up enough times in CNDCL, and it has been discussed and decided that we lack necessary training and technology to make these calls." What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, it's interesting, actually, because, I will tell you one thing, like, Sabeel had actually reached out to me back in June. And he wanted some advice from an umpire's point of view. And he said, there's been a couple umpires that have put in reports about players chucking, and we're kind of at a loss because, we don't have some facility where we can bring a bowler in to analyze his action with slow motion cameras and angle measures and anything. And, what should we do as an organization? And my suggestion to him was, like, there's two levels to this. There's the on-field level, and then there's the after the match level, right? On the field, you have to leave it up to the umpires, right? Certainly, if the umpire thinks that something is happening that is unfair or against the laws, they should have every right to call that, right? Fair. Saying that we don't have the technology part happens after that. Right? It's a one-time call.
We don't have a technology to call a run out either.
Exactly. And that's the thing. If we're getting into a technology conversation, like, umpires should be able to give LBWs, right? Because we don't have that check, right?
That's fair.
Now, and then the after the match fact is that if the league is getting reports of bowlers chucking, how do they handle it? And I think that conversation was had to address that situation where, if a bowler's called for chucking, right, per ICC law, like, he's not allowed to bowl until he's been cleared by the governing body. So, as CDCL as an organization, like, how do you clear that bowler when you don't have the technology, you don't have the facility?
Board meeting that never ends.
Exactly. And my suggestion was even, like, like, the team should, if it's a younger player, the team should work with him to develop maybe a new action or a change of action.
Yeah.
And, just get in front of a few neutral parties to say, okay, is this action okay or not? And once it's deemed that it's fine, like, communicate that with the umpires and with the teams that, okay, we understand there's been history. We feel that this bowler is at a place where we are satisfied now.
But Paul, the problem with that is that what if that person goes back to that particular type of action and someone else sees it slightly differently, and then, do we send that person for retesting, or how do we do that? Because, you know, at international level, these bowlers get tested all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So I do understand what you're saying, but that argument may be slightly flawed as well.
No, I understand. 100% it's flawed, but, you know, working with the resources that we have and that the league has and the city has and even the country has, you know, I think it's a start. You know, it's never going to be 100%. Even in the international game, it's not 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it all the time. I mean, I was looking back at the video and the interviews when Muralitharan was called, like back in the early 2000s. And, you know, what it took for him to be cleared and had his name dragged through the mud, that, you know, he was an illegal bowler, and then what he went through to get to that stage where, you know, he was one of the greats again, right? And that he didn't have this asterisk by his name saying, well, he's taken a bunch of wickets, but how many of them should have counted? And I even watched the interview with the umpire who said, look, I called it as I saw it, and that's all we can do. Right. And that's kind of my stance with this too, is like, you know, I called something how I saw it, and that's all I can do.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong at the end of the day, but I really don't think I was.
That's fair. And someone actually made a comment about something very similar as what you're saying on an Instagram, and they said we should be sending our players for like biomechanic. You know, what is that going to do to the cost, and what is that going to do to the infrastructure of what we have or what's available to us, right? So those are some of the questions that I would ask people who are questioning this, like how do we determine this, or how can we as a league work towards this, right?
Yeah. And the thing with that too is, like, if you look at the amount of cricket that is played in Calgary, the amount of matches that go on, and the amount of umpires that will report a checking incident, it's maybe what, 2, 3, 4 a year. It doesn't happen every game.
But it doesn't happen because people are afraid to call those and make those calls. Because making a chucking call is a tough call. Not everyone can make it.
Tell me about it.
Right? We're having a discussion about this.
Yeah.
You know, almost 5,000 people have been on combined, like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. They have seen this, and people are reaching out to me personally. Speaking of that, someone from CCA has reached out to me and said, you know, I'm paid by Night Riders. So yeah, they paid me 100K. So that's the price. Going rate for June.
All right.
June to September, that's the rate.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that was any cause for concern. But yeah, I mean, and even the comment was brought up to me about, why is this being called in the final?
Okay.
That this bowler has been bowling all year, and he's never been called. They even said, you know, I had umpired one of his games in smash and grab, and I didn't call it. Like, why is it happening in the final? And honestly, like, it's, again, it boils down to that, you know, I called what I saw. And it makes no difference whether it's a final, whether it's a friendly, whether it's, you know, smash and grab, you know, 100K final, whatever. I mean, I go onto the field with the same mentality every game, that I am there to apply the laws, and that's it.
That's one of the comments I made in my initial video, and thank you for clarifying this. So I do understand where you're coming from. So you will make the call as you see it. If you didn't see it that day, how can you make that call? You know, funny incident, many years ago, I was umpiring, and I was looking to the parking lot end, that side, and somebody just took the bails off on a stump call, and they were appealing. And I'm like, how can I give it out? I didn't even see it. If I didn't see it, how can I give it?
Yeah.
So I do understand the point that you're making there. So can you tell me what happened, or what was your conversation like when Night Riders were having a conversation with you? It seemed like there was like a bunch of players that were having a conversation rather than having one or two players talking to you.
Yeah. So the initial conversation was, you know, myself, the other umpire, and the captain. When other players started to get involved, like, they actually were very respectful. You know, when I would say, look, guys, I'm talking with the captain right now, and they walked away and did their own thing, and that was nice to see.
Sure.
And it wasn't until after they walked off the first time that's when the crowd started, and everyone's throwing their opinion. And I mean, I don't understand the mentality behind that, because there's absolutely nothing that can be said that's going to change my mind on this.
Okay.
And everyone wants to throw an opinion, and maybe there's the mob mentality of like, if I have 11 players telling me the same thing, maybe it sways my mind, and maybe it does with other umpires. I'm not sure. I can't speak for that, but certainly like it was very calm until the players first left the field, and then there was phone calls being made and team managers getting involved and league executives getting involved. And there was one point where I was caught like on the boundary, and I'm going, all right, I need to make a decision. Either I stay here and let this play out, or I'm getting in my vehicle and I'm leaving. Because it's either gonna escalate more to something that could be catastrophic, or cooler heads are gonna prevail, and this match might continue.
So yesterday when I was talking to you over the phone, you said that you were being threatened pretty hard as well. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the saving grace was that I feel like the majority of what was said is in a language I don't understand. But certainly there was tones of voice and aggression. I mean, you can see on the video, like I'm about 4 feet away from the stumps, and they were kicked, towards my direction. Whether that was intentional or not, I had a ball spiked right in front of me, and one of the Knight Riders players grabbed the stumps from my hand when I picked them up, and said something and called me a name. I won't repeat it, but yeah, I mean, it's tense, right? And I've been in similar situations. I mean, we know that from the previous interview, where voices are getting raised, and when opinions don't match, that's when you get that animosity, right? And to be caught in the middle of that, it's very tense, and it's scary. You don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, like it's usually it's 11. This was more like 15 because they had managers and subs and everything. It's like 15 on 2, right? And okay, I've got another team that's kind of backing me up, and I've got league executives there that are trying to calm things down. But yeah, I mean, it's not a situation that I would ever want to be in, or have anyone else ever be in.
Yeah. I reached out to Sami in the past, who was your co-umpire with you for that game. He doesn't like doing interviews, and he's always said to me, I don't want to do any of this. What was your discussion like with Sami after the game or during the game?
Yeah, I mean, first off, like, credit to Sami. I mean, obviously the first game I met Sami was the game where his team decided to throw flying kicks and whatever. But Sami's a great guy. I mean, I've got a lot of respect for him, and I've got even more after this incident. Simply for the fact that he very much took control of separating certain parties and talking to people in a way that calmed things down.
Yeah.
I mean, out of the two of us, I mean, I kind of took the lead to say, look, I'm going to call this. I'm going to make this decision. So, now the pressure's on me, and everyone should be coming at me. And Sami did a great job of separating and talking to, captains and players and explaining the situation. And, he even said to me, in the middle of all this, he says, it's like, you did everything 100% right. You are correct in this. And it's the other parties that can't understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. Like, they think that maybe there's some bias, or, that I'm doing this for other reasons.
Yeah.
And
so let's talk about those reasons.
Yeah.
How much did CCA pay you?
let me tell you, after smash and grab, like,
you're their favorite.
CCA, I'm not CCA's biggest fan. I mean, Zoheb was very vocal when I gave him out stumped in smash and grab finals. So,
yeah.
I mean, I've actually been approached by a lot of teams about, joining on just like an associate basis, or just, becoming a friend of the team. And I've really kind of taken the stance of like, look, I don't want to associate myself with anyone.
Yeah.
Because we talked before about how that's, maybe a potential problem in cricket and in certain leagues, is that, that executives are part of a team and umpires are part of one team, and where's that boundary?
Yeah.
Right. So I certainly I have zero relationship with anyone, especially in CDCL.
Yeah.
I think there's like maybe 2 players that I played with 20 years ago that I still recognize. And yeah, so I mean, I don't have ill feelings towards any team. I mean, even Night Riders after this. I mean, like I'm not going to say, oh, I'll never do a Night Riders game again. I mean, because things happen and
things happen in the heat of the moment as well.
and hopefully things get resolved, and that after, maybe not after this interview, but maybe a few months down the road, they realize that like the way that game played out, it was done fairly, and it shouldn't have ended the way it did, and that it's not on me or my decision. It's I didn't do this for any other reason except for what is written within the laws of cricket.
Yeah, and speaking of Sami, and thanks for sharing how he felt after. Someone made a comment about umpires don't call players for chucking, and if you look at Sami, he is the most authentic version of what person would look like, or who he is. So it just like boggles my mind, like these type of comments that people make.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, and I actually I read that one, and I know that there's and I've never been to Asia before, so I don't want to comment too much on the cricket that's played there. Or
are you sure you were in Asia in West Winds this weekend?
I'm there every weekend, so but certainly I know that it's kind of a cultural thing there, that spin's taught a certain way, and I mean I've had I can probably count a dozen times where I've had players or other umpires or people involved in the game that have asked me about chucking, and they've said, we think this guy is chucking. I mean, I've sat on the sidelines for a couple of them, and I've said, no, it looks like a chuck, but it's in the wrist, and that's fine. I can't off the top of my head think of any bowlers within Calgary that maybe have that natural flex as a fast bowler. But I mean, I've seen a ton of wrist action that looks like a throw.
Exactly.
And I've said like, no, that's not a throw. I mean, I feel pretty confident in what I would distinguish between a throw and not a throw.
Yeah.
Just from experience and research and training. And, and I'll be the first to say, like, that's not a throw.
Yeah. And CCA captain, when he reached out to me this morning, he said something very similar to what you're saying. This person was actually throwing, not just a jerk in the wrist or something along those lines. He was probably upset after he got hit, and he just really gave a good whack, and that's when a lot of the noise was coming from the outside.
Yeah.
So it's lining up, obviously, but there's a few questions, right, that I came up with after you told me what you told me. So now, when we look at the bigger picture, there's nothing above cricket. You talked about that, and you're doing this for love of the game. Why continue umpiring if you're gonna have to deal with all of this?
If you'd actually have asked my wife that yesterday, she would have told you that I'll never step on the field again. She had the same conversation with me. She said, why are you doing this every weekend? Like, it's, you're making a couple $100 a day to be out there for 8, 9, 10 hours. Is it worth it? And, like it's like you said, it's the love of the game, and it's the way to stay a part of it, without playing or, without being able to get to a higher level. And that's, one of the things I wanted to talk about too is when players are talking about technology and all this, is that when you start your cricketing journey as a junior, like no one ever goes into the nets the first time and says, I want to play Div 3 in Calgary. It's always, I want to be the opening batsman for India, or I want to be the opening bowler for England. And that to get to that level, that's where you get the technology calls. And that's what you're striving for always. Right. And that's what comes back to the love of the game, is that, we're all trying to get to a higher level. And same with myself in umpiring. I mean, I've got aspirations to to work bigger tournaments and national games, and that's where I'm trying to go. And that's kind of the reason why I umpire as much as I do. So why do I keep umpiring? Well, it's simply the passion for the game, the knowledge of the game. I mean, I still feel that I've got a lot to teach, and that I can help other players, other umpires, increase their level of cricket. And that means a lot to me. If I can be an inspiration to someone, or to teach someone something, I mean, it's a good feeling for me. I mean, Sunday wasn't a good feeling at all. But generally, like, majority of the games I do, like, I get a sense of pride from it, knowing that I've helped the game out in a certain way. So that's why I continue to umpire, and I will continue to umpire. And as long as you guys will have me. I mean, if it gets to a point where they say, you're involved in too many conflicts, well, that's fine. But, there's not a list of people screaming out to umpire finals right now.
Yeah.
I mean, even, you look at Sunday, I mean, it wasn't supposed to be Sammy in that game. It was supposed to be myself and Fanny. Fanny got injured playing his final in the morning, and a replacement was found. And, Sabeel even messaged me and said, do you have another umpire that can do this? And I reached out to everyone, and Sabeel reached out to everyone, and no one's jumping to go, oh, hell yeah, I'll do the Elite Division final. Right. So, I mean, even more so now, like, any umpire looking at that video is going to go, why the hell would I want to do?
Because, like these stumps or bats or ball, they can really hurt you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, especially in a heat of moment. One interesting thing that I just kept thinking about last night when I spoke to you earlier that day, you said the spirit of the game is dead. Do you change your statement?
Yeah, I mean, certain aspects of it, no. The comment that I made to you yesterday on the phone about the spirit of the game is it related to captains, and the level between types of games, I guess. I mean, I grew up in the UK, and there's a very big distinction between the professional level, and then the what we call the first class, which is guys that are in their 20s and 30s that are trying to make county squads, or trying to be the best to go there. And then you have your village cricket, right? And I loved playing village cricket because it's I mean, it's fun, and I know that I'm going to see something, whether it's the 70-year-old guy that just rolls his arm over, and that comment really related to the fact of how I don't think I'll ever see, like, a captain call a batsman back. But there's certain times where these players, and especially the captains, can make a difference and can really start that change. And I don't think I'll ever see it. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, like, if you want to be competitive every game, that's fine. But it takes a lot of the fun and the enjoyment out of the game for everyone. I mean, if you go out to bat and you don't edge a ball, maybe it hits, your bat hits the pad, or bat hits the turf, and the whole team goes up and the umpire gives it out, your day's over. And when I have teams coming up to me after going, oh yeah, we knew it wasn't an edge, and we just appealed for the sake of it. Like, that's the spirit of the game, and that's where a lot of it is lost.
Yeah. No, I understand. Now, the obviously internet was pretty divided on this whole drama. Some say that we shouldn't be allowing umpires to call, and others are saying, if one person in our WhatsApp group, in our own team, said, if you just actually make these calls, half of the players who are bowling right now wouldn't be bowling in these leagues.
I mean, that's for the internet to decide, I guess. I mean, like I said, I mean, I called it how I saw it. And it's the same with everything. I mean, we last year was really bad. We called a bunch of penalties for saliva, and and just like the animosity behind that, by going, well, what the hell? Like, why are we getting penalized for that? Because that's the rule. And I know, like, that one's a controversial one, and it's even more so now because IPL allows it, but ICC doesn't. So a lot of the players are watching IPL, and and they're seeing them do it and they go, oh, okay, it must be fine now. But yeah, as an umpire, like, I mean, if I sat down and thought about it, like, when I take my stance and I hear a bowler running up, like, how many things do I have to listen for? There's dozens, and it's a lot of it's small things. I mean, there's the main things like the feet, and then you're looking to, the striker if he's gonna play a shot or if the ball hits his pads. But there's a lot of other things that we're always keeping an eye out for.
Yeah.
And this one it stuck out, and that's where it came from. We don't have the benefit of third umpires and TV umpires and match referees that are also looking out for stuff. I mean, that was the whole thing with the the sandpaper scandal, right? I mean, they would have got away with it if it was at this level, because it came from the match referee saw something, and he radioed down to the umpire to check. So we don't have the benefit of that. So we as umpires, we have to just apply the laws in the best way we can. And it's never going to be 100% right. But we're trying to get to as close to that as we can. And it's going to affect some games.
Yeah.
It's going to change some results. We know that.
Right.
But that's the game. I mean, there's a winner and a loser. And, I would hate to ever feel that, I was the difference in the result of a game because of something I did when I shouldn't have done, or I didn't do when I should have. And that's, where it goes back to, like, I called it how I saw it. I mean, if I didn't call it and that affected the match, I mean, I would feel so much worse, going home that night being like, I saw a throw and I didn't call it, and that affected the result. And now I've got a different team mad at me, so I mean, when there's calls like that where, one team thinks it's this and one team thinks it's that, I mean, you just look at it, you go, okay, what's the law? Like, what is the law to the best of my ability?
Right.
And that's what we do. I mean, we can't pick and choose what laws we want to decide on. I mean, the ICC does a great job of updating their laws and having them written in a way where there is no gray area. There is no black and white. I mean, I know, like, the no ball is a very controversial one because, it relies on the use of technology to detect whether a bowler is or isn't chucking in that after stage. But it's also written in a way that it gives the umpire the full power to assess and penalize as he or she feels necessary. And that's what we did.
Okay. There was one person who reached out to me, sent me a message on Instagram and said I was allowed to bowl in Toronto leagues and I didn't have any problems. I'm bowling with the exact same action here in Calgary, and I was called out for chucking, or he's concerned about that. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I mean, like, we also respect the local law, right? And if you've got a league that wants to, allow certain things, to allow a game to happen, or allow guys to get out and enjoy the sunshine, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I remember seeing there's one league in Calgary. It just started up, and I remember I was just on their Facebook page and I was reading through their rules, and the one they had a play edition in there that, like, there was no LBWs allowed because they had too many arguments, and they, it was like amateur umpires. I mean, it's an amateur league, and that's fine. If that's what you agree upon, that you don't want to apply a certain law because it's making the game not as fun or not as competitive, like, absolutely no problem. We'll differentiate that on our end to allow the game to happen. And that's even relates back to this. Like, when I first had the conversation with the captain, I said, look, I'm not aware of this rule. If it happens to be true, then I apologize and I'll recall the decision. But, until that time, like, the decision stands. And that's when phone calls are made, and that it turns out, I guess it was talked about at some point, but it was never actually put into law. And with a lot of these things, you say, why would a league choose to change a rule like that?
Yeah, and why are we so wishy-washy over this?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if it's in the rule or not in the rule, like, why can't we have a straight decision over this? And also, you told me this yesterday, maybe you have forgotten. Night Riders told you that you cooked the game with CCA and the president of the league? Did you?
Definitely not. No. And yeah, again, the comment was made to me.
When was the plan made to cook this?
There was never a plan. And I think I know where they're coming from, and maybe there was a bit of a language barrier here, but in that first conversation, I had mentioned, I said, Sabeel reached out to me in June to ask my advice on this no ball controversy.
Yeah.
What was my suggestions on it? And I think maybe that translated into Paul and Sabeel have talked about calling players for no balls because
Paul,
that was the accusation is that Sabeel had told me before the game, make sure you're calling chucking. And that never happened. I mean, CDCL is actually one of the better leagues in not interfering with umpires, and trying to dictate how things go. I mean, I've been part of tournaments where, they've said something like, "Oh, we only want you to play from one end, and it's got to be this end." I say, "Why does it have to be this end?" And they can't give me an answer. And then I talk to the captains. I say, "Okay, you guys can pick whichever end you want." And one team's going, "Oh no, like it's got to be this end. It's got to be this end," and they can't give me a justification.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, the ground's wet at the back and there's less chance. It's that someone in that league or someone in that team has, found a way that this end benefits them. And, those kind of situations happen, right? And you have to look past that. And CDCL is great with that, with not interfering with umpires' decisions. I mean, I've been a part of a few hearings now where, they've backed me up a lot on decisions that have been made and how things were handled. And, they do a good job of not trying to interfere. I mean, certainly even on Sunday, we had to initiate the call to say, is this a thing or is it not? Right. I didn't have executives call me being like, oh yeah, that's a rule and you got to change your decision. So that's a nice thing to see, is that they really have faith in the umpires.
Yeah.
Whether they're right or wrong. I know it's even written in their rules that, if a team feels that an umpire is inadequate, like they can put in a report, but it's not the CDCL's job to tell them whether the decision was right or not. They'll only provide guidance on it, that the umpire made a call, and that's how it is.
Okay. So with the kind of behavior that I was told Knight Riders have conducted or conducted themselves into, did you file a complaint?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had to put in a match report, with any situation like this. And I think actually technically I should have done two. I should have sent one in for the throw and then another one in for the way it ended, but I just kind of rolled it into one email. And another thing too, like, we talked about the behavior and stumps being kicked and balls being thrown. And one of the conversations was actually had, like, when we were attempting to restart the match, they were kind of on the fence about playing Knight Riders. And I said to them, look, I said, guys, what you've done here, like, it's not okay. You've intentionally damaged pitch equipment. You've threatened umpires. I mean, those are level 1, 2, and 3 offenses right there. I would be within my right to, send players out and award penalties. I said, I'm willing to look past all that. Okay, I understand it's a controversial call and it's happening in the final. There's money on the line. I understand that, right? I'm happy to let all that go just for the game to continue.
Okay.
And they really took this firm stance of, if you call it a no ball, like, we're not playing. And again, like, that it sets this precedent where if I change that call, that captains now have this power to influence an umpire. And I can't, like, personally, it's never happened to me, but I don't, maybe it's happened out there where, a captain threatening to walk off the pitch has changed an umpire's decision. I mean, in what world is that ever going to do anything? I mean, if you walk off the pitch, it's an automatic loss. If you play the game under protest or, with animosity, like, you still might win. Okay. So what benefit is there for the Knight Riders to say, okay, we don't want to play anymore? Because it's an automatic loss. I mean, I mean, they may choose to replay it. I highly doubt it. I think that would be even worse if they said, okay, we'll reschedule it and play it again. I mean, I'm certainly open to it. I mean, it's not my decision at this point, but I don't understand that mentality of a decision didn't go our way, so we're done.
Okay, yeah. So there's a couple of important points, and you brought one of them yesterday over the phone call. You said that none of the Knight Rider players actually said he's not throwing.
Yeah, like that was something that was interesting too, because when the captain, I first approached the captain about it. I said, we've detected an illegal action. We're taking the steps. His only comment was, you can report it to the league, no problem. That's fine, but you can't call it a no ball.
Okay.
Right? He never once said, and even after that, after this, the conversation I had after that, none of the players said he's not chucking. He's not chucking. It was, you can't call a no ball for that. So to me, that says that, maybe certain players or all the players or whoever knows that this is an illegal action.
Okay.
And that, maybe the league's allowed him to do it for however long, but there was no one that defended him by saying, that's not a throw, it's a flex or it's a wrist or anything like that. Like that was never brought up. It was simply umpires cannot call a no ball. Like that's the rule.
Do you think it was an oversight or it was intentional?
Like on the bowler part or
on the captain or whoever's the spokesperson was for the Knight Riders? They never said he's not throwing or he is throwing.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I mean, it seems like it's very deliberate, because if you're trying to argue against the no ball call, like certainly your first thing would be to say, like, what have you seen? Like, what is making you make this call?
Yeah.
Right? Explain to me what he's doing with his arm.
And that's fair question.
That is, making you make this decision.
Mm-hmm.
And that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
If the captain said, like, show me the action or show me what he's doing, right? I would have, mimicked what I saw, right? And why I'm making this decision. But the only argument was that umpires are not allowed to call a no ball for a throw, right? So to me, that says that they're aware that this is going on and that maybe he's just got away with it for so long. And it's taken, the most unfortunate timing being the Elite Division final for it to finally come to the top and affect the game the way it did.
What's your recommendation to the league? Obviously, you have called him for chucking now.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be bowling or what's happening next?
Honestly, like that's not for me to decide. I've like I mentioned before, like, Sabio reached out to me back in June about this, and I was very clear that, it should be a neutral parties that analyze this. And I think at this point, like, I'm involved with the situation now, and like I should have no part in that decision. I mean, that extends way off of what I'm responsible for on the field. And it's 100% up to the league of what action they want to take. And even if they ask me my opinion on it, I would say the same thing. Like, I don't want to be involved in this at all.
Sure. One very important question I have for you, Paul. After whatever decision is made, are we going to leave our 10,000 or 5,000 people hanging, or are we going to give them an update together that, hey, this is what's happened? What's the game plan? Because if it's just for theater, I think we will end it now. But I think, in all seriousness, I think people want to know what's happening, because these people who are reaching out or making comments, they're actually concerned about this.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I'm interested too. I mean, the way the league handles this and the way the teams handle this, I think is going to speak volumes to the way that cricket is played in the future and the way the league operates in the future. Certainly, I don't want to be any more part of it. I mean, obviously, I'm probably going to get called for a hearing and have to explain a bunch of stuff and kind of have this conversation over with a lot more people in the room.
Sure.
And that's fine. I mean, I understand that's part of the job and part of what we do. And certainly I would love the next time that we talk, it's about something positive, rather than like, oh, hey, there was an incident, and people are talking, and let's put the story to rest. I mean, I'm happy to come do these. I love coming down here.
Oh, thank you.
And
we appreciate
chatting cricket with you. But
whenever Sami and you are on the field, something explosive happens.
We're 2 for 2, yeah. So
right. So that's something. It goes hand in hand.
No, definitely not. And like I said, like all credit to Sammy. I mean, he was absolutely brilliant on Sunday at really calming things down and making sure they didn't escalate. So
no, thank you.
But yeah, I mean, certainly, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people with a vested interest in this. I mean, I had guys from the previous games I umpired that day that were reaching out to me saying, what's going on, and what happened, and even like umpires that were umpiring other games.
Yeah.
Like an hour after it happened, they're messaging me and like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
And that's positive because it means that people are watching cricket, and that the city knows that, hey, there's a big final on, and everyone was expecting a different ending.
Yes.
I mean, no one goes into a game like that saying we're going to play 12.3 overs and a winner's going to be declared. I mean, either that's because an incident like this has happened, or one team's been bowled out real quick, and and both scenarios, it's not the result that anyone wants, right?
Yeah, no one wants that.
I mean, obviously, there's I have an interest in the way this is handled, but at this point, my interest is really from the outside looking in. I mean, whatever the league decides, that's totally up to them. I'm not going to offer any more opinion, because having opinions isn't my job. I mean, I'm there to enforce the laws, and if they want to call me for a law clarification, I'm all for that. But this is kind of where my involvement with it stops.
No, that's good. Okay, now there's one important thing that after people who've watched this video, some people from Toronto, also Edmonton, BC, everyone has been watching it. I think what this will do to the leagues in other provinces is it will allow them, or at least give them a reason to think about this issue that we have. And hopefully we can come to a conclusion to resolve this. I don't know what that is either. Hopefully, if someone has a suggestion that is cost effective for these leagues, we would love to hear that as well from people.
Yeah, I mean, it all boils down to applying the laws and not being intimidated. Especially as an umpire, because like the worst thing you can do is change a decision. We know that. Yeah. I mean, the situation probably would have been much worse if I'd have heeded to the captain saying, we're going to walk off if you call no ball, right? And if I'd have turned around and said, okay, yeah, fine, I want the game to play, I want it to happen. I mean, that's all everyone will be talking about now, and that looks so much worse on me.
Fair enough,
right? So, I mean, it's unfortunate because it's something that you can't take back. I mean, I remember a situation last year where I had a run out I gave out, and the decision had to be changed. The other umpire saw the keeper's pad hit the bail off. Where I'm standing, I couldn't see that. And that's all that team talked about was, you can't change a decision. That's against the rules. And I said, no, new information's come up, right? I have another official. It's not someone outside. It's not a TV camera. It's the other official that's watching the play has come to me and said, I've witnessed this happen, right? But that's all everyone talked about for that week was how Paul changed the decision, and that's why we lost the game, right? And a situation like that, you go, again, like that was the right decision. I mean, if it would have come from, someone sending a YouTube video going, this is, but it's the other umpire, right? And even with this call, like I didn't feel comfortable making it on my own. Even though I've seen it, I don't have the best vantage point. That's why the law is written that way, is that it's the square leg umpire who should be making that call.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why we conferenced, and made sure that we had it right, because we knew it was controversial. We knew that of course it was going to dictate the way the game plays out. I mean, we had no idea that stumps were going to get thrown and teams were going to walk off, but we wanted to make sure we got it right, and I believe that on that day we did.
Yeah. So what's next for Paul Newnham?
What time is it? I got a game at 5:30. I've got a stand in. So, that's the short term. And I think I've got 8 games this week I'm umpiring. So yeah, it's a busy schedule. So.
How do you feel after this conversation?
You know what, like I said, Samir, I mean, it's great coming here and chatting cricket, and just knowing that there's an outlet for positives in the game. I mean, I certainly don't want to think that I'm just coming on here to bash the Night Riders and telling them they were wrong, because like I said, I mean, I don't have any animosity to them. I mean, I know that stakes were high, emotions were high, and I get it. I mean, I've played the game. I know that if I was a member of that team, that I mean, I would be upset too, because
of course,
magnitude,
and also
you think that an umpire is against you, and that just does nothing for the game. And and even I remember when we were talking about a restart, I remember thinking to myself, like, if this game starts again, like, this is going to be really tough.
Yes,
because everything I do from now on is going to be booed and analyzed and everything. If I give a wide that's close, like, it's a simple call, right? I mean, everything's going to be overanalyzed, and part of me is actually happy that it didn't start again, because I felt like if that game would have started, like, it would have been so much worse for me to have to continue that game. I mean, obviously I'm not happy because the result didn't come the way it was, but yeah, I mean, that's what's next. I mean, on to the next one, and hopefully we play full 20 overs tonight. So.
No, I hope so as well. Yeah. I hope so as well, and thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you all for watching CricChat, powered by Umer, Sheikh, and our big sponsor, Kinetic Sports. Thank you.